Should be good to go. Present. All right, so we are going to do the Bellringer for today. Let me post this up here for you. Okay, so you're going to go to classwork, weekly Bellringer sheet, and obviously you're going to start on Thursday, okay? Thursday. So you're going to put in the date, so it's the 27th. So don't worry about Wednesday, Tuesday, or Monday, okay? You're going to put in the date here for Thursday, and then I'll put up a question here, okay? So I'll put up a question. Please write down the question and then the answer, all right? So it's just pertaining to what we did yesterday. That's all it is. And then when you're done with it by the end of the week, so like tomorrow, okay, once we're done with the Bellringer tomorrow, I like you can screenshot it or you can just keep it like in a Google Doc and you can just create a new Google Doc for it for the next week. Does that sound good? I think you can do that, right, Jakari? Okay, well, everybody else did before, so that should work. Okay, that should work. All right, so we're going to start on Thursday, obviously the 27th, and then I'll put up a question, write down the question, and write down your answer, and we'll discuss it. Does that sound good? Okay, so I'm going to put up the question right now. It's a short one. So what does it mean to be a progressive? What does it mean to be progressive? There you go. See if I'm presenting for everybody. Yep. So what does it mean to be progressive? We talked over this yesterday. Again, guys, if you come in, you'll see the agenda up here on the board, Chris. Okay, so when you walk in, you'll see the agenda up here. All right, that's what we're going to go over for today. And then tomorrow we have the movie form, syllabus, and then the website quiz. I don't know if you saw that, did you?
I saw the movie.
Okay. All you got to do is type your name in that form and hit submit. All right?
Good.
All right, I'll give you, how about 2-3 minutes to complete that? Does that work? I think that'll be enough time. Shouldn't take you too long. Answer complete sentences, guys. I don't want a few words, okay? I just don't want a few words, so complete sentences. Does everybody know what we're doing? Kevin, you good? Okay. If you want to, in the past, people put them in their notes as well. So they just labeled a note, Bellringers, and you can fill them out that way. Whatever way is easier for you. I know it's the first one, so it's not a big deal. But if you want to, you can just put in your notes. I think that's easy as well. I can go around and check that pretty easy. Okay. What's up, Chris? It's all right, man. All right, so it's gonna be your lunch number.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay. All right, so you can either do it on a weekly Bellringer sheet or you can do it on notes, whatever one you want. But this is easy too. So you just go weekly Bellringer sheet. You just come up on that, and then you click here. Yep.
All right,
And then you just hit the pencil, the edit.
All right, great.
And you'll fill out for today.
All right, so just tell me.
Yeah, so that question up here. So just write down that question in the Thursday column, and then yep, and just answer it. That's it, man. Again, too, you know the notes icon, the notes app. You could do it there too. Whatever's easier for you, or a Word doc. I mean, people do that too. All right, guys, I'll give you one more minute here to finish up. All right, so if there's something you want to add to the question that you already had, the answer that you already had, please fill that in, okay? It's supposed to help you. Again, where do these questions pop up on? Tests, right? Yeah, quizzes. Okay, so it's important that you fill these out. Not only just fill out the question, but the answer. Okay, so you'll see these pop up on tests. So please hold on to these bell ringers throughout the course of the year. Who knows? Maybe there might be a final at the end of the year. A lot of these questions will pop up on it. So if I were you, just hold on to it. Okay. And for each Friday, I'll give you however many bell ringers there were. So this week there'll be 2, just today and tomorrow. So there's 2 points. Okay. And then next week, hopefully we have 5. So there's 5 points. All right. So moving forward, that's an easy way to earn points and earn credit throughout the course. As long as you do the work, you'll do just fine in this class. Does that sound good? Okay. What does it mean to be a progressive? So what does it mean to be a progressive? What do we think? What do we have here? Go ahead, Alyssa. Right?
It means you're always trying to change your home for the better.
Yeah, there you go. You're always trying to look forward, right? You're always trying to change and become better. Okay, so yesterday I put up the insurance company and progressive. It's a great slogan, right? It's a great name for a company because you're always trying to look better, or you're always trying to look to become better and look for the future, a brighter future. Okay, and this is what this era is all about, the progressive era. Okay, we're going to talk about some progressive movements, progressive activists that help try to fight for rights for many people. Okay, African Americans, immigrants, women. Okay, even workers' rights, sanitary conditions in the workplace, equal opportunities for everybody, minimum wage, insurance benefits, so on and so forth. So progressive era, I kind of relate it to growing pains. Okay, so obviously when you're going through your adolescence, when you're even becoming a teenager, I didn't really have those problems, growing pains. I didn't grow too much, right, Colin? Yeah. But anyway, with growing pains, the United States is expanding out. All right, they're becoming an industrial power. Okay, so right after the Civil War, they're expanding out into the West. We see industrialization in these bigger cities. Okay, especially out in the West, we'll see St. Louis, Chicago, right? Kansas City, New Orleans. They're all becoming stronger and bigger cities because of industrialization occurring in these areas. More people are moving out and moving from the rural areas to these cities. And what is that term called? When you're moving to these bigger cities. Go ahead, Chase. Urbanization. Yeah, urbanization. Good job. Urbanization. So in a way, this is why they consider it growing pains for the United States. As the United States is growing and becoming stronger, all right, we're going to see a lot of pains, a lot of problems that are going to emerge. And one of the major things is unsanitary conditions in the workplace. We're just trying to pump out as many materials as possible. We're just trying to become a stronger country by pushing out as many items as possible for trade. Okay. So some of these issues need to be solved. some of these people that work in these harsh conditions need some sort of compensation, right? They need a better lifestyle, better opportunities in the workplace. Okay, so the progressive era, I guess we can consider it's like growing pains for the United States. We need to solve and we need to try to subdue these growing pains. And that's what the progressive era is all about. Is there any questions on the Bellringer? Again, this is kind of like opinionated here. So what does it mean to be a progressive? So it's all kind of what you want to say. But for the most part, as long as you say we're moving in the right direction, trying to evolve, try to become better, that's fine. Okay, that's fine. Is there any questions on that, guys? All right, so I'm going to put up the vocab. I'd like you to pull up a Word doc, notes, your notes app, whatever you want to do. Usually I just post it out for everybody, but this time I'm just going to show like 2 or 3 words, explain them to you so you can fill them out as we go along. And then each day I'll do 2, 3, 4 more vocab terms. Does that work? So we're all working together on it. I don't want to make an assignment for you. Also, many of the students just shared their drive together, shared their docs together. So like, well, we're going to try to solve that. Also, if you want to write them down, Jakari, that's a good idea. If you want to write them down, that's good as well. Okay, you can use that to study for. All right, so that's it for the Bellringer. Just, again, write the question, the answer down. You're good to go. All right, so let me get this straightened out here. I'm going to do 3 of them. That's it today. All right, so write them down, these vocab terms. Again, I'll do like 3, 4 a day. That's about it. If you want to put them in a Google Doc, if you want to put them on your notes app, that's fine. So we're just going to do 3, progressivism, direct primary, and suffrage. Okay, just those 3. All right, so I'll give you a little bit of time to write these 3 terms down, and then I'll describe, I'll go in detail about these, okay? Let me see if I'm still presenting to the folks at home. Give me 1 second here, sorry. Okay, we're good. There we go. Make sure they have it. If they don't, what the heck, you know, Jakari. All right, so we kind of went over this first one already. What is progressivism? What is it, Colin?
Trying to get better.
Yeah. Yeah, good job. So try to advance, try to become better. All right, so you can relate it to the progressive era. All right, so in the late 1800s, early 1900s, we see a bunch of activist movements. Okay, we're going to say muckrakers. We're going to save that for tomorrow. I know what you're thinking. Muckrakers, what are they doing? Are they just raking up dirt and mud? We'll see. We'll figure that out tomorrow. But progressivism, again, just advancement, looking for a better life. Okay, looking for better times in the road ahead. Okay, looking for a better future. Again, I think that's a good analogy. Growing pains as the United States is expanding and becoming a dominant power. Okay, we'll see some problems emerging from this rapid expansion, and as the U.S. is becoming a superior power in the world. Okay, with imperialism. Ooh, that's a cool word. It's one of my favorite chapters, imperialism. Talk about that one next. All right, direct primary. What's that? What's a direct primary? Does anybody know? Autumn, do you know? No? What's a direct primary? So this goes along with the 17th Amendment. Anybody? Rooster, do you know? Do you have a guess?
Maybe something like
Yeah, you're on the right track. It's pretty much simple as that. Yeah, you're directly electing people, right? So in the late 1800s, okay, many of these people that went to vote, especially immigrants, they weren't educated enough to know these agendas, these platforms, right? Okay, so with the direct primary, this was the first time ever really that people could individually vote for a candidate that they wanted to choose. Okay, this also helped out that not state senators right? State senators weren't elected by other state senators, that the people had the vote, okay? The people had the right to the vote. It wasn't just chosen by other representatives, okay? So, in other words, it gives the people the opportunity to vote directly who they would want in office. Also, during this time, okay, there's a lot of mobs, mafias, okay, immigrant groups. So, if you wanted to vote, you'd have to go to a voting booth or a voting house, pretty much. And there's a lot of immigrant groups, mafias, mobs there trying to prevent anybody from voting against their candidate. So, what do you think they did to some of these people that would try to vote against their candidate? Yeah, they'd beat them up and oftentimes kill them. They'd make an example out of this person, okay? And it came to a point where people were fearful and that afraid that, you know what, maybe we shouldn't vote against who actually we want to vote in, all right? Maybe we should vote for whoever the mob or the mafia would like to be chosen, right? Because they're fearful for their lives. Politics was controlled by a lot of these mobs and mafias, which is sad to say, but that's what happened. Even African American votes, okay, in the South. We'll talk about literacy tests. You had to take a test to actually vote. And I'll show a video when we get to that section. They had students from Harvard. When you think of Harvard, you think of prestigious school, right? They tried to take this literacy test. How do you think they did on it? Very, very, they couldn't even pass the first question. They're just like, this is impossible. These questions are meant to be pretty much failed. They can't pass it. And let's say if for some reason, I don't know if it probably never really happened. Let's say for some reason African American would pass this literacy test. Guess who they met at the voting booths, the voting lines? A big mob, okay? Ready to beat them up, scare them, kill them even if they tried to vote against their candidate. So direct primaries, the 17th Amendment, was set up to try to eliminate this hostility, to give the vote to the person, okay? Give the vote to the common person. Trying to level that stage out a little bit. Try to end corruption in politics. I mean, even today, there's still, people think, there's still a lot of corruption in politics. But during this time, right, it was a lot worse. And the 17th Amendment was aimed to try to stop that. Is everybody good with that? I know I went on a long rant, but that's just how I am. Right, Colin?
That's right.
That's right. Right, suffrage. I promise this one's not as long. Suffrage. What do we have for suffrage? Haley, go ahead. The right to vote. Plain and simple. Good job. The right to vote. Good. The right to vote. We're going to talk about women's suffrage in this chapter. Okay, women's suffrage is just the right to vote. We see a lot of activists like Florence Kelly, Susan B. Anthony, trying to push for women's rights and equality in society. Not only just the right to vote, which is the biggest one that we'll see here in the 1920s, but also right to an education, opportunity in the workplace, okay, so on and so forth. Is there any questions with these three terms? That's all I really wanted to cover today. We're just going to do 3, 4, at the most 5 terms a day, but that's about it. And in this case, we're all doing it at the same time. Okay, we'll all get it done together, and this isn't just an assignment that you have to do for homework. Is that okay with you guys? Try to limit the workload for you guys at home. Right, Rooster? How good of a guy am I? The best, right? The best. Thanks, man. Psychology is a different story, though, so I'm sorry. It's all right, Rooster. It's all right. You'll get through it. Okay. All right. Notes. I promise not too much today. Promise not too much. So, again, you guys can write in Notepad. Okay, you can put it on Notes app on your iPad. You can do a Google Doc, whatever you want to do. But just write down the main points that I put up on the board. And then anything else that I talk about, that's important as well. So you'll find that on quizzes, tests, maybe a writing assignment in the future, okay? So pay attention. So we already talked about what it means to be a progressive, right? I think we're good with that, right? Yeah, I think so too. So progressive, we're moving forward. We're looking for better conditions. Okay, we're looking for new innovative ideas in the workplace. So the assembly line being created, right, with Henry Ford. We're trying to make a better luxury style living for Americans. If we have more items, more supplies, what happens to the price? This is common economics here. So if you have a higher supply, what does the price do? It drops, right? It lowers. Okay, as long as you know that, you're going to be good with economics. Mr. Shutt's class is going to be a breeze. No, I'm just kidding. There's a lot more to it, but the first thing is supply and demand. Okay, if you have a higher supply of things, the demand's going to drop, means the price is going to drop. All right, so we went over that yesterday. Here we go. The problems before the progressive era. It's like I said before, growing pains. The United States were going through a lot of growing pains. It was an adjustment. It was a new style of living, pretty much, for many Americans. It was a huge adjustment. So as long as you know these three causes here, you'll be golden, all right? You'll be golden for the test. Number one, industrialization, okay? Industrialization. Did industrialization first happen in the United States? Where did it first occur, you think? Go ahead, Chris. What's that? Okay, you're on the right track there. So there's two waves. Okay, there's two waves. I like what you said there with Germany. That's awesome. The first wave happened in Great Britain, okay, in England. So that was coal powered. That was steam engines, things like that. The second wave, okay, make sure you guys remember this too. The second wave happened in Germany. Good job. So this was chemical engineering, use of electricity. Okay, that's awesome. I'm glad you brought that up. So I'll put this up on a board here for you. The first wave, industrialization. So that was Great Britain. You can put England down too, whatever one you want to do. Okay, we can say coal powered. Okay, coal powered, steam engines. Let me bring this computer over so they can hear me at home better. I think we'll be able to see that too. So the first wave occurred in Great Britain or England, right? And this was coal-powered steam engines, okay? So this was happening right at the end of the 1700s, early 1800s to mid-1800s, okay? So that was happening right in Great Britain and England. Can you guys see that okay? If not, you can come up, take a picture then. Obviously, social distance, right? So that was the first wave. That was the first wave. The second wave, which Chris said, awesome job. Okay, it was in Germany. I'll erase this here. Maybe I'll get the picture of that. All right, so this was electricity. Use of electricity, power, different things, different mechanisms. Okay, chemicals. All right. So chemicals to help, obviously clean things. The use of chemicals in different types of combustions to help power different engines. So gasoline, oil. Okay. So as long as you know these two waves, you'll be good. We can say, so late 1700s to, let's say, mid 1800s. And we can say here, so mid 1800s, 1800 to, we can go all the way up until honestly, modern time. Modern time. All the way up to World War II when we see jets, different forms of tanks. Okay, this is always expanding, even today. We see different types of mechanisms and different types of automobiles. Let's say this is all being powered by still this second wave. So in some ways, Germany was ahead of their time in the mid 1800s till even modern time. Okay, obviously now America, different forms of Asian countries like Japan, okay, even China, okay, they're coming up with different ways of powering mechanisms and industries. Okay. All right, so make sure you guys know those two waves of industrialization. All right, so more factories and industry, less farms, more low-paying jobs. So this is expanding across the United States, right? Obviously, Philadelphia, New York City, Boston. With the use of railroads, which we're going to talk about more next week, is expanding out into the west. So St. Louis, Chicago, which you might read a little bit about today if we get to it. Okay, the western part of the United States. Okay, we'll see a lot of influx of immigrants from Asian countries. So San Francisco, San Diego, different Sacramento, different cities like that emerging because of immigration and industrialization expanding across the United States. Next one, because we have all these industries forming in these bigger cities, urbanization, right? We talked about that earlier. Urbanization, people move from country to the cities, overcrowding communities. Okay, so people actually living on top of each other, okay, living in these really tight rooms. So in a room like this, you can imagine, let's say 25, 30 people and their families living in a room like this. You don't really have personal space. You don't have privacy, okay? Obviously, where do you think you go to the bathroom? Maybe in a bucket and you throw it out in the street. That's about it. Not much privacy at all, okay? I think many of you might share a room with a sibling, but for the most part, many of you have your own room. That's really nice. But in the 1800s, 1900s, they didn't have that in these larger cities. Everybody was compacted together. So, especially with today's world, okay, with COVID-19 and everything, what spread rapid through these cities, you think, which killed many people? Diseases, sickness, because everybody was piled on top of each other. Okay, they didn't have their privacy, things like that. And like I said, harsh working conditions resulted from urbanization. So many people in these areas, so many people working in these factories, okay, people bumping into each other. They didn't have the space to work freely, obviously. And let's just face it, people were dime a dozen for these big business owners. Someone died, if someone wasn't working efficiently, let's say they didn't show up for work for some reason. All right, find a new one, no problem. We have all these people moving to the cities, and we're going to just pay someone the cheapest amount, no problem. Last one, immigration, okay? Immigration. Europe was becoming a hostile area, right? Europe was becoming a hostile place in the world. All these countries, which we'll talk about next chapter, imperialism, okay? All these countries were competing against one another. Josh, you good? Okay. All these countries are competing against one another to become the top dog in the world. They're building up their militaries. They're coming up with new ways to power different mechanisms, okay, like we'll see with Germany, okay, becoming a stronger power in the mid-1800s. This challenged Great Britain, okay. This challenged all these other countries to become better, and we'll see a lot of hostility. So a lot of these people are moving away from Europe to get out of this harsh environment to the United States, where they'll have different opportunities, become their own individual person. Okay, Andrew Carnegie, Scots-Irish immigrant. I'm sure you guys know him, huh? No? So when you go out to Pittsburgh, has anybody out to Pittsburgh yet? Everything's named Carnegie, right? Carnegie Mellon University, Carnegie Street, Carnegie Museum. There's different museums, parks named after Carnegie. He was a Scots-Irish immigrant. He brought the Bessemer process to Pittsburgh. And what's Pittsburgh known for? Steel City. It was all because of him. It was all because of Andrew Carnegie, which we'll talk about more next week. So yeah, immigrants, they brought a lot of new innovative ideas to the United States to make it become a stronger, more powerful country, okay? And we'll see a lot of debates over immigration in the United States. Is it a good thing? Is it a bad thing? It's causing a lot of overcrowding, urbanization in these areas. But at the same time, a lot of these immigrants are bringing in a lot of new innovative ideas to the U.S. to make it grow, to expand it to what we know it as today. All right, is there any questions on that, guys? Good? But with these three problems, we'll see growing pains, like I said. We'll see the United States trying to shift and become a better country, Okay, they need to try to help the workers out, help the middle class out in these harsh times. So from these problems, we'll see social and political problems, political bosses and big business emerging. Okay, monopolies, trusts, where these businesses are taking over and buying up these small industries, these small businesses. And this is eliminating a lot of opportunities for many people. Okay, for some people, it's creating many more, all right? As they don't have to pay people minimum wage, okay, the population, okay, they don't have to pay these immigrants this amount of money. They're just happy to get a job, okay? But with this, there's no benefits. There's no job security. There's no safety and different types of regulations in the workplace. No insurance. There's no sick days. Okay, obviously everybody, every once in a while, doesn't feel the best. At this time, if you didn't show up to work, you're done. We'll find someone new. We'll pay them less. Not a big deal. So you have the immigrants coming in, the people from the rural areas coming into these big cities, African Americans coming from the South, the Great Migration, all into these cities all at once. They're all looking for jobs. There's a lot of competition. Americans against immigrants, against African Americans, okay, so on and so forth. So we'll see a lot of violence emerging through these times because of competition in the workplace. All right, now I'm done. Is there any questions at all? All right, I'm gonna put up a video for you guys, just reviewing what I talked about and reviewing the progressive era. It might talk a little bit about some of the things we'll get to next week and tomorrow, but that's okay. Okay, that's okay. As long as we're introducing the topics, we can explain a little bit more next week. All right, so let me play that for you. Go to, this might be it. I don't know. Yep, this is it. Can have you do that reading, but we'll see if we have enough time. Does that work? I'm sure you guys are like, oh yeah, we don't have to do a reading. Thank God. We'll see. Turn the volume on.
By the end of the 1800s, Americans were eager to fix social problems and make the United States a model society. There were sectors of focus in which reform was needed: labor and working conditions,
We're good.
the urban poor, the corruption of political machines, and economic inequality and the power of big business. Each of these areas would see reform during the Progressive Era.
The progressive movement was in the 1870s and the 1910s that aimed to improve society. They wanted to return control of the government back to the common people. They wanted to restore equal economic opportunity and correct social injustices.
There were four main goals of the Progressive Era. First, they wanted to protect the social welfare of citizens. They wanted to promote moral improvement in society. They wanted to create economic reform nationwide, and they wanted to foster industrial efficiency. Let's talk about the first goal: protecting the social welfare of citizens. It's a social gospel movement, rooted in Judeo-Christian beliefs. The advocates of social welfare improvement believed that charity was at the heart of improving the lives of American citizens. Organizations like the YMCA and the Salvation Army opened libraries, schools, and gave education and beds to needy boys. They opened soup kitchens for the hungry and nurseries for needy children. One advocate of the movement was Florence Kelley. She advocated for better lives for women and for children in poverty.
The next goal was promoting moral improvement. Some reformers thought morality, not wealth, improved lives. Living morally would uplift the poor and give them a purpose and a drive. Many reformers called for temperance. Temperance is the prohibition of alcohol. One organization created on this reform movement was the Women's Christian Temperance Union. Based on Christianity, they sang and prayed in schools. They opened schools and went to prisons, talking about sobriety and giving credibility
Uh-oh,
to women's
boys.
suffrage.
Better not drink alcohol.
A major
Don't
figure
get any
in the
more
temperance
kisses.
movement was Carrie Nation. Nation was famous for taking her hatchets and busting open bottles and kegs of beer in order to make sure that no one would drink it.
Some groups wanted to create economic reform. A major economic panic in 1893 led many Americans to question capitalism. A movement sprang up in order to reform the economic system and promote equal opportunity for everyone. Workers and citizens clamored for a worker-based economy and equal distribution of wealth. They wanted reforms of businesses and better working conditions. Major catalysts for this reform were muckrakers. Muckrakers were journalists who wrote about the corruption of big business. It caused a backlash.
We'll talk about this tomorrow,
wealthy
muckrakers.
people, and corporate greed, and spurred Americans to call for further economic reform. One of the most famous muckrakers of the age was Upton Sinclair. His book, The Jungle, exposed conditions in the meatpacking industry.
The next goal was fostering efficiency in industry. Reformers pushed the use of science and expert advice in manufacturing. They wanted to make industry more efficient, reduce waste, in order to satisfy more needs. Industry began to turn towards standardized work, meaning they would break work into small tasks where each individual worker would do one thing very well. The downside to this is it fatigued the workforce. Workers became overworked and injured easily due to the fact that they would lose focus on their menial tasks. Despite these complications with workers, it increased, allowing more goods to be produced.
Reformers also sought to clean up, improve, and reform government. Political machines and corrupt mayors were thrown out of office. State and local governments were held responsible for the welfare of their citizens. And reforms were implemented to clean up, allowing citizens to have a greater say in who represents them in government. Election reforms of the Gilded Age ultimately made government more responsive to citizens. In order to be elected, you had to actually listen to your constituents and do what they wanted, as opposed to being in office purely for personal graft was the way of the past. The first reform implemented was the secret ballot. It prevented voter fraud and took away powers of political machines by allowing voters to vote in private for their candidate. No longer did you have to tell the political machine who you voted for, and you didn't have to live in fear of retaliation if you voted against their candidate.
That's what we're talking about
Next is
today.
initiative.
Direct primary.
Voters can directly write a bill and put it on the ballot for passage.
Another election reform is referendum. Referendum is when voters vote on a ballot initiative. In California, we have a referendum every election, vote on propositions placed on the ballot.
And finally, recall. A recall is when voters can remove officials from office early or call for an election.
In October of 2003, Californians went to the ballot and recalled Governor Gray Davis, kicking him out of office. In his place, they elected Governor Arnold Schwarzenegger. Get to the chopper! And then there's the 17th Amendment. In 1912, the Constitution was changed to allow the direct election of U.S. senators by the citizens themselves. Originally, the Founding Fathers had state governments select U.S. senators to send to Washington. Instead, now citizens themselves could directly elect their senators, making the Senate more responsive to the people. If you want to get reelected to the Senate, you better do what the people want you to do. The goals of the Progressive Era motivated voters to elect progressive politicians. Throughout the early 1900s, we see three progressive presidents implement policies to reform society: Teddy Roosevelt, William Howard Taft, and Woodrow Wilson. We'll look at their presidents the days to come.
We will. We'll talk about the progressive presidents here soon. Is there any questions, guys, on that? Okay. So remember the three causes to the progressive era, right? And obviously the vocab terms we went over today. All right. That's all I got for today.